Okay, we have started recording.
Awesome. I'd like to call the August 12th, 2026 board meeting to order and remind everyone to please mute your audio when not speaking, as well as state your name prior to making a comment or motion or second for an action item. I'll ask each commissioner to please respond with a here when I call out their name. Commissioner Duggan,
Here.
Commissioner Lysick,
Here.
Commissioner Sanders,
Here.
and I am here. Next, we'll have some reports by the CEO and management staff.
Well, good evening, President Fisher, commissioners. Got a meeting tonight that's focused primarily on, largely on selecting our new commissioner for the vacant position, but I'll give you a quick update on some happenings here at the district. So you probably saw some of the recent coverage. In fact, I sent an email over the weekend about an article that OPB had ran about the cyber attack. It mentioned actually happening to an Oregon drinking water provider. I want to thank Justin Dyke for managing the media inquiry. And one of the things that that we want to be able to do is to be a resource to the media so we can make sure that actual accurate information is provided to the public. And so Justin's been instrumental in building those relationships to make that happen. So I want to make it very clear that TVWD was not the affected utility in Oregon, and we did not use the equipment that was named in the FBI advisory described in the article. The equipment itself is actually not the problem. The problem was how it was deployed. We build and maintain our operational technology, OT versus IT, to our water industry, cybersecurity standards and best practices. You've heard from Tim and Lan about our efforts in this regard, as well as the work that is done by our SCADA team that's in Pete's group. One important thing, though, is we did hire an independent consultant to review our risks, cybersecurity among them, but actually broad risks here at the district to our water system, including our operational technology as part of our WIA assessment. And that's actually a federal requirement that we look at it every 5 years and certify that we've done this assessment. We find it to be very helpful because bringing in that independent third party professional in this regard, they can assess our situation, and at least it provides me some comfort that we're doing as much as we can. So the consultant that we hired, they did confirm that we have the right controls in place. But as I'm sure Tim would tell you, cybersecurity is an ever-present risk. So we keep at it with our own staff, outside experts, and with our state and federal partners. This is something that's only going to be a challenge that continues to into the future. So we're ever present, but this was not an event that affected us directly. I think OPB picked up the article because of what happened in Minnesota. So I thought I'd just spend a moment giving you a little bit of background on that. So on July 26th and 27th, there was a coordinated attack that hit more than 30 Minnesota water systems. The attackers went after their SCADA system, their operational technologies, and that's the controls used to run the plants remotely and some of their other facilities that they have. There was one plant in particular that was taken offline for about an hour. 3 other cities ran their systems manually. The other thing is when we design our infrastructure, we do it in such a manner that even without SCADA, they should operate appropriately. So there are some checks and balances that are put in there. We like to see our SCADA system, and it does influence how we run things, but it does have the ability to operate for a limited period of time without any SCADA inputs. The investigator cited an unpatched flaw in internet-connected SCADA devices, likely an Iran affiliate actor. And again, as I mentioned earlier, those SCADA devices weren't necessarily the problem, how it was deployed. In fact, the SCADA devices that are used are the same ones that are used at the JWC. So if you have the modern SCADA devices and you implement them well, they don't present necessarily a risk to a water utility. Minnesota, the state ran a whole of state response with Minnesota IT, CISA, which is part of the Department of Homeland Security. That's the cyber infrastructure security. Help me out, Tim. Security agency, I believe.
Agency, yeah.
As well as the FBI. So CISA kind of helps you defend yourself in advance. The FBI goes after perps that have actually violated things, and the Environmental Protection Agency. The FBI and EPA have since warned utilities nationwide. Similar activities hit at least 7 states, and of course, based on that OPB article, Oregon was apparently one of the 7 states. So I don't know if you have any questions about this. If you do, I can put Tim and Pete on the hot seat to answer them. Seeing none, I will move forward. So we do have some new water quality videos, and I've included this in a Thursday memo in the past. I don't know if you had an opportunity to look at it, but they're very well done. Our communications group produced an educational video on daily water quality monitoring and source water protection. It features TVWD staff, so you see some familiar faces, both in the field and the laboratory. It gives community members a clear look at the testing and system maintenance behind the clean, safe water that we deliver to them. It's available in both English and Spanish, and it's professionally done video, and frankly, I'm really impressed, and I wanted to highlight it here. I'm trying to share this so that the audio comes through. So if you're not hearing audio, please let me know. I'm not sure if there's a way for me to share it other than the way that I have here. So I'm going to go ahead and click, and we'll see the first video. Are you able to hear the video? Okay. Well, I will send you a link. There's the English language version. I'm sorry that I'm not able to get the audio to come through the meeting here. But there's an English language version as well as a Spanish language version. Incredibly well produced, and I think it's going to be very helpful for our customers to have confidence in the water that we provide them, to understand how it is that we protect their drinking water. Here's the Spanish language version. I'll go through this really quickly since you're not able to actually hear the video itself. It's essentially the same thing, but done in Spanish to help our customers who are native Spanish speakers. The other thing I want to highlight is that TVWD, we have now adopted another organizational goal. This is the second year in the row that we've done that. You might remember last year, our organizational goal was to ensure that our employees all had the adequate safety training and met all of our safety training requirements. This year, we're focusing on training for our incident command system and the National Incident Management System training, the capability to respond. So our 26-27 organizational goal is that every TVWD employee will have complete or refreshed IS, which is the Independence Day, IS 100 and IS 700 by June 30, 2027. These are the independent study courses from FEMA covering the Incident Command System and NIMS. It's how our nation organizes and responds to emergencies, and it's how TVWD is managing the water supply integration project that's upcoming. In fact, our leadership team is setting the example. Earlier today, the team completed course G402, which is the policy level ICS NIMS course training for senior leaders. And the training was excellent. It was conducted by a member of the 12th Valley Fire and Rescue. Joe Wheatland did an excellent job, an excellent resource for the district. And we really appreciate his training in that regard. With that, our Chief Financial Officer, Justin Carlton, will present tonight's Director's Report. Justin, want to take it away?
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, President Fisher. Good evening, Commissioners. So tonight's Director's Report is going to focus on the WWSP true-up process. This is something Commissioner Duggan's probably familiar with in his role as the WWSS board member. So I'll talk about what it is and why it's important. I think it's something that you all should be aware of. So the true-up process was actually developed by the Finance Committee in 2020 as part of the development of the cost shares methodology. So as part of the IGA, there was an exhibit that said, as Beaverton was joining in, that we had to develop a methodology to allocate the costs to the different assets that were called out in Exhibit 1 of the IGA. So the Exhibit 1 says the amount of capacity in the different types of assets. And so we had to take that information and put it into a process where we were able to actually allocate costs appropriately to each of the partners for their respective investments in the WWSS. Some of the challenges that we dealt with in that is, as projects evolve over time, they would result in changes in partner cost shares. And then additionally, these changes would result in changes in the allocation of what we call our system-wide costs, which are essentially the program overhead costs. Sorry, I just realized my camera was off. That get allocated to the assets upon the completion of the program. So a couple different challenges that we were trying to manage there. And so what I'll describe here is the project evolution. So when the program set out and broke the program into the various projects that we were going to tackle, we tried to schedule those projects in ways or establish those projects that were attractive to local and regional contractors, that could be bonded appropriately, that were adequate in size to manage. And so they started off with, roughly a half dozen different projects. And so in 2016, for example, we had one of our pipeline projects, Pipeline Main 5.0. And so we went out and we hired a designer and we had a project manager. And so we're accumulating costs at this PLM 5.0 level. So we'll call that level 1. Fast forward in time, the projects start to get broken up a little bit based on changing circumstances. So there might be a partnership opportunity, or we might have a change in alignment. And so that one project actually got broken up into 3 separate projects over time. And to further complicate that, so we'll call those level 2 projects. Those projects don't necessarily align with the ownership capacities that were driven by where the location of the turnouts were. So in the example of the PLM project, we have PLM 5.1 that had cost shares that are shown here in the table of 58.9 and 36 and 4.99%. And that was consistent for PLM 5.2. But then we get into the PLM 5.3 project where there's a turnout located midway through that pipeline. And so we actually have one construction project that had 2 different ownership percentages associated with it. And so that was one of the additional challenges we had to manage going forward. Similarly, with changes in scope, so this is some older data, but you can see looking back at what we call our baseline 5.2, we're currently on baseline 11, so about 6 years ago. We had some change in scope where we were trying to cut some costs out of the program, and so we delayed a construction element on our PLW2 project. So that wound up changing the allocation of costs between the 2 partners that had capacity in that pipeline. And so that change in percentage then winds up changing how we allocate our system-wide costs, or those overheads as well, which are actually allocated right now based on each individual partner's total investment in the system. So if you're looking at those grand total numbers there, you're probably wondering, well, I thought the program was 1.6 billion, not 990 million. These were the direct construction costs that were associated with those projects at that time. So they don't include any of those system-wide costs, but we use these numbers to develop the system-wide cost allocations. So these things are changing over time, and we needed to have a methodology to manage that on an annual basis as well as at the conclusion of the program. So we developed this annual true-up process where what we do is we take a look at the baseline numbers, and so we use what's at the time it was estimated project costs, and as we evolved into actual costs, so we had contract numbers, and now we're completing projects, we have actual construction costs. So we update all those values in our what's called our OPCC, or our opinion of probable construction costs workbook. And then we take those numbers and we run them through a model. And then at the end of each fiscal year, once we've completed the audit, we have the revised numbers. We update those on an annual basis so that each partner's cost shares are reflective of the most current information. And then each year we actually process an invoice for those that may owe more, or we actually process a refund in the account where somebody might have overpaid a little bit. So it all nets out to 0 at the end of each fiscal year, but we process those so everybody's contributions for their respective investments in the WWSS are up to date. For the final true up process, so we are going to see some changes in what our estimate or what our actual costs in the WWSS are as this final true up process occurs. And so what we will do is we will take the assets that are actually identified in Exhibit 1 of the IGA, and we will then align those with actually capitalizing assets of the WWSS. So some of those examples include the raw water pipeline, the reservoir, water treatment plant, administrative building, dewatering facility. So we'll have actual assets then that we can say these are the things and this is how much they're valued at as owned by the WWSS. And then from those initial asset values, we'll allocate what we call those general project costs, so those level 1 projects that I showed you earlier. So like, for example, the PLM 5.0 project costs, those will get allocated to those direct construction costs. So we'll take those design management and construction management costs, we'll apply them to the actual direct assets, and then so we'll have an initial asset value. And then finally, we take the system-wide cost and we allocate those to those initial asset values to determine the final asset values. And we'll compare that to the ownership capacity in each of those assets, and then look at what each partner respectively contributed and then true it up based on those final values. So this work will need to take place at the completion of the program. So don't be surprised if we see some minor adjustments that take place once the system's online and we're in a process where we're operational, but we still have some trailing costs. So we'll have this final true up process that will take place probably be about a year or so after we're in operations, and we'll have all those assets capitalized and we'll know our final numbers. But there's going to be a little movement once the program is in completion. What that looks like, just from a picture standpoint, as I mentioned, we have those level 1 project costs that first get allocated to those level 2s. We have a general asset value at that time, and then we go back through with the system-wide costs and apply all those, and that gives us our final asset values. If you're really interested in this, there's about an 18-page report that was drafted and adopted by the WWSS Commission. So this methodology has been vetted. It actually was first vetted through our, you may recall that we did an audit to do a construction management audit. And so we used, at the time, Moss Adams, now Baker Tilly, reviewed our control environment, and they reviewed our true-up process, and they had recommended that the board actually formally adopt that. So we did take that to the board. So we used that as our base for doing this process, and it's been agreed upon. And so it's something that the board might be interested in learning about. And I'm also happy to answer any questions you have on that.
Thank you, Justin.
Excuse me, President Fisher, this is
Mhm.
Todd Sanders. Justin, you said about a year for all the final numbers. Does that insinuate then that the WWSP sunsets shortly after that? Or will it exist in support of something else?
So the WWSP will have a sunset period. Right now, we are under contract with Stantec to provide those support services through fiscal 27. And so obviously, there's still a big contingency in terms of when the actual treatment plant finishes and when the system comes online. We anticipate that this work will be concluded at the end of fiscal 2027. There will probably be some lingering things that get addressed in fiscal 28. And we anticipate hopefully wrapping up the trailing costs and having those asset values established, likely at the beginning of fiscal 29.
Thank you.
So if there are no other questions, that concludes the report by the Chief Executive Officer and management staff. Thank you.
Paul, I do have
Oh.
one thing to ask about, because I
Sure.
saw the email about it and I forgot to bring it up. But you had sent an email about our working with the Warm Springs tribe. And I don't know
Yeah.
if you're prepared, if you can just do a quick, how that came to be, and then maybe this is for a later conversation, but I'd like to know if we've extended that branch out to the rest of the tribes in the state, if they need our expertise in the future.
So yeah, maybe we can find an opportunity to, I've talked to some of the commissioners about that, give you sort of the full debrief on it. And so maybe Commissioner Fisher, I can find some time to do that. The long and the short of it though is that we do participate in something called ORWARN, which allows folks to reach out and request assistance. It's a mutual aid agreement for water, wastewater utilities throughout the state. And in the past, I think, and Pete, I might put you a little bit on the spot here. I think we've helped City of Salem when they had the issue with the HABs a few years ago. Is that right, Pete?
Yeah, that's correct. So, yeah, in the Salem event, and I forget the details of how that uh, arrangement came to be, but we did send some equipment down there, some people with one of our emergency water distribution trailers, set that up in actually the city of Kaiser, who had a different source of water. So it just gave a spot for people around the area to go and get water during that one.
So consistent with our regional principles, we're always prepared to help, as long as we're able to. The nice thing about the ORWARN system is it's a pre-existing mutual aid compact that people can participate in. And so we look at that as being an opportunity for us to provide assistance where it's needed. But I'll find an opportunity to talk to you more directly about the Warm Springs.
Thank you, Paul.
You bet.
Well, I'm not seeing any more questions, so I think we can move on to Commissioner Communications. And we'll start with reports of meetings attended. And we can begin with Commissioner Duggan.
Good evening. My meetings for the last month consist of attending the Metro Impact meeting as a full representative for special districts of Washington County, as Commissioner Miles Palacios of THPRD has resigned his position as both Impact member and commissioner at the Park District, and is now a commissioner for the Metropolitan Services District. So I stepped up, or was recruited, so to speak, by the way the rules are set up, to be a full-time member until such time that the Park District appoints a replacement for former Commissioner Palacios. And it just pointed out at that meeting why the Park District should have a primary presence there, is because one of the agenda items for that evening was to discuss the various grants and bonds that Metro administers in their function as a regional park agency. On August 3rd, I had my regular monthly meeting with Paul Matthews for updates. On August 6th was the Willamette Water Supply System Board meeting and executive session, where we'll probably hear more about that. Where we adopted a surplus property policy, and then tonight's meetings. And that's
Thank you,
it.
Commissioner Duggan. I'll go Commissioner Lysak.
On July 27th, I had a touch base with CEO Matthews, just my normal monthly touch base, our work session on the 4th, and then tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Commissioner Sanders.
Thank you. I met with CEO Matthews twice in the last month, July 16th, and then earlier this week. And then on the 17th of July, I participated in the Joint Water Commission 50th year anniversary event, as well as the Barney Reservoir and Joint Water Commission quarterly meetings. And then we had last week our work session, and then today's meeting. So nothing too important to talk back about the JWC meeting was barbecue. That's the important part of that meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Sanders. And for this last month, oops, I gotta bring up the right file first. I also attended the JWC 50th anniversary event. And then on the 21st, I had my monthly check-in with the CEO. And on the 22nd of July, we met with the mayor of Sherwood to discuss issues of mutual importance to the regional partners. And then on the 4th of August, had our regular work session. On the 6th, our agenda planning session. And then on the 8th, I attended a legislative coffee with Senator Lou Frederick, where we did bring up the events in Minnesota, and he believes there's going to be a little more movement now because of that event. And then this next session of the legislature dealing with cybersecurity for municipal districts. And then then I attended tonight's meeting. And that's all of my meetings. Do we have any topics to be raised by commissioners? I'm not seeing any. So we'll move into public comment period. Public comment period is set aside for persons wishing to address the board on items on the consent agenda and matters not on the agenda. Additional public comment will be invited on agenda items as they are presented. Sam, do we have any persons online tonight who are going to make public comment?
I'm not seeing any this evening.
Okay. Then we will move into our consent agenda. Consent agenda items are considered to be routine and may be enacted in one motion without separate discussion. Any board members may request that an item be removed by motion for discussion and separate action. Any items requested to be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion will be considered immediately after the board has approved those items which do not require discussion. So we have 3 items on our consent agenda. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented?
This is Todd Sanders. I move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
This is Commissioner Lysak. I second.
I have a motion and a second. So all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? The motion carries. We'll now move into our business agenda. Board 5 position selection process and appointment. We'll start with Paul.
Well, thank you, President Fisher, and good evening, commissioners, one more time. This is actually an agenda item that's primarily for you all to work on. I'll give you kind of an update of what staff has done to help prepare for this. So at the August 4th work session, you provided us direction to prepare a motion to aid in the final selection process for the vacancy on commissioner position number 5. The final selection process involves each Board of Commissioner member submitting the name of their top 2 candidates to the district recorder by email during tonight's meeting, but after the board actually takes action to approve this proposed process. The 2 candidates receiving the greatest number of level support will advance as the final candidates to be considered by the board. We did prepare draft language for this. I'm going to go through both steps and then have a summary slide that will present the entire thing. So the first is the following is the draft motion language. should the board choose to proceed with the process that we talked about at the August 4th work session. And it's listed there. I won't necessarily read the motion itself. The important thing here, though, is this is not like a ranked voting. It's just the two top. It doesn't matter in which order they are. And the district recorder will consolidate that and present the results for the board. The second part of that would be the recommended motion to actually appoint an individual after you've had your discussion. If somebody wants to then move, and you can just have your discussion on that item. But if you actually want to move and appoint one of the candidates that you've interviewed to the position, that would be the motion that you would use. Before I move on, any questions about either of these two steps? We have Tommy and Sam that can help if there are questions. Seeing none, just kind of putting it all together. It is a two-step process. Then the first step would be to approve that proposed process. And that would be a motion with second discussion and then a vote. And if that's approved, then go to step number 2. I'll leave this up so that you can see the motions if that's helpful. With that, that concludes staff's presentation on this matter.
Thank you, Paul. We'll try to not let this next part get too painful for you all.
All right, so President Fisher, do you need me to read proposed motion step number 1, or can I say I move for proposed motion step number 1?
I think that would be totally acceptable.
President Fisher, this is Todd Sanders. I move to accept proposed motion step number 1.
Yeah, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
This is Commissioner Duggan. I second that.
I have a motion and a second to adopt proposed motion step number 1. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, so we have our first motion. So now we will go into, if I'm correct in remembering what I just read, we'll go into a short recess for the commissioners to send their top 2 names to Sam.
That's correct. So we'll just kind of leave it on this slide for a few minutes, and if the commissioners could just email me their top 2, it shouldn't take me very long to tally everybody up, and then I'll share my screen with the final count. Okay, I have completed my tally. It does look like Commissioner Sanders stepped out for a moment. So I'm going to pop that tally up on the screen now. And we can return to the meeting when Commissioner Sanders returns to a seat. Give me a moment to share my screen.
Sounds good.
Okay, so can everybody see this little spreadsheet here? Okay, so I'm going to highlight the top two. In green, there's actually a tie, so it's, I would call this a top three. And just to confirm, everybody can see this, okay? Do I need to zoom in a little bit?
I can see it.
Okay, great.
Not being biased or anything, but wouldn't the number of people or the people who get the most first selections have a greater weighted value than first and second? Sorry,
Well,
engineer slash.
we were in the instructions, we were told that it was not a ranking, that it was.
Yeah, that's correct. Commissioner Sanders, Paul did mention that this is not a ranked choice. It is just top two. It's not first pick and second pick.
Well, I think at this point, we should entertain some kind of a motion. It looks like Dan Cushing has 3 votes. Perhaps we should entertain a motion to appoint Dan Cushing and have a discussion about Dan.
I guess just a point of order, would it make more sense to have the discussion in advance of the motion? So since we can see where the choices were, it would be, I think that the discussion really directed towards Commissioner Sanders with concerns or issues with appointing Dan.
I mean, I'm not sure if there's no motion on the floor, if there's anything to discuss at this point.
So you can, Commissioner Fisher, may I?
Yes.
Yeah, you can discuss this topic at any time. So you're free to discuss now. Somebody's free to make a motion and then discuss the motion that was made. But you have the option to discuss whatever you like at this time.
Okay, then we will open it up for general discussion first.
Commissioner Fisher, would it be helpful if I put the motions back on the screen?
Yes, please.
And I will put the top 3 in the chat since they won't be displayed on the screen anymore if you'd want to reference those.
Excellent, thank you. If nobody minds, I'll speak on behalf of the 2 decisions that I made, which were Brian Kennedy, which I did actually. Brian Kennedy is my first choice. Everybody else was a far second or third. And the reason for that is because as we now are formally transitioning from a purchaser of water from the city of Portland to a provider of water and an owner of massive amount of infrastructure, our understanding of our purpose our understanding of our budget is going to take a new direction, and having someone who is, in this case, a CFO of Metro on our board would be very helpful in having another set of eyes reviewing it. And that was why I had chosen also Mr. Mills as the second, because of the experience that he had with different boards and their budget system, their budget process. So it didn't have anything to do with really politics. It had everything to do with the experience with budgets. And we've been saying, Paul's been saying adamantly, we are going in a different direction very, very soon. And that very, very soon is going to be this next fiscal year, really. And so my opinion was I wanted to see someone on our board who could add to that new experience that we were going to have to apply through. So that was my reasoning.
This is Commissioner Lysak. You captured my sentiments exactly. That's why I included Brian on my ballot as well. I intentionally made an effort to not rank my choices. I will say it was difficult for me to narrow it down to just two, because Anthony Mills would, if in a different process where we would have been able to put forth more candidates, Anthony would have been the third name that I would have listed as well. I'll say that you hit on my biggest concerns as well, Commissioner Sanders. I feel like Brian is uniquely positioned from his professional background with Metro, as well as his previous time with Hillsborough, to provide us with a really powerful resource on the board. So I would have no qualms with that appointment.
Well, this is Commissioner Duggan. I really feel bad that I wasn't able to attend the board work session last week. And this was a very, very hard decision. All the candidates interviewed well. They all had strengths that they could bring to our board. I had a real tough time sorting through all the different permutations on who to select. I am impressed by, again, all the candidates and what they were bringing to the interview and their experience. At this time, I think Dan Cushing represents a unique opportunity for another voice in Salem. That's why I chose him. I was also intrigued by the educational background of Michael, and that's why I selected him as my second choice. Or excuse me, not Michael, Matthew. And so I'm open to further persuasion, just because it was such a difficult choice. And I wasn't really moved by Brian Kennedy's interview, even though I am impressed by his experience and the thoughts of my fellow commissioners that have been expressed so far in this meeting. So that's where I'm sitting right now.
Thank you, Commissioner Duggan. So I'll talk about why I made my two selections then. I'm looking at this as sort of the typical person. I thought all of our finalists were excellent candidates. Some of them have very impressive resumes that you would say, oh, we should hire this person to work for us instead of being on the board. some of their backgrounds would do us well here at the district as an employee. I ended up choosing Dan and Anthony because, as great as I think all of our candidates are, I didn't want us to be clustered into one particular region. When I saw the map that the staff provided, it seemed like if we chose a couple of the candidates, almost all of the commissioners would be from a certain region of our district, and here, representing a certain voice of the constituents of our district. And I recognize that Commissioner Doan, we don't have district seats or anything, but Commissioner Doan did a marvelous job representing the folks in Aloha, who certainly do deserve to have a voice at the table. So that's weighed a little more heavily on my decision making than a lot of their backgrounds. I was very impressed with Dan because he was the one who got community input, even if they were from local elected folks in the region or former elected folks. He certainly was aware of how you go about gathering support in the community to do something. Anthony, equally as well, has a lot of community experience in Aloha, which was something I'm really trying to honor and value here. So it was just, that was sort of like the thing that pushed me over the edge for folks. I, again, like Commissioner Duggan, like Brian's background. I'm not sure why he put decline to participate in other forums on our board in his initial application. That sort of threw me off, that if you have these skills that you're offering to us, and if you don't have, if there was a chance he might not get this appointment, being on the budget committee would certainly still utilize his skills that he has. And so I was really confused with us being a public service focused organization, why someone wouldn't want to do public service that route as well as serving on our board. So that was the big deciding factor between my two and the other candidates, who I thought were equally good. Also, I'm very cognizant that we are now living in a world where not everyone should be just like us. And I thought Dan's background working in public health, in that sector, having a voice with those folks, and also the LGBTQ community was very important, so that our board could be more reflective of our greater community. So that's where I came down on.
Well, President Fisher, may I offer this? If you're responsible for the budget of Metro, and you're not a board member with us, would it really excite you to be on our budget committee? I mean, it's already doing it 8 hours a day. So
I would hope any public service would be wonderful for someone. They'd be excited about public service. Are there any other discussion points about the candidates so far?
Well, I think this is a missed opportunity if we don't choose someone with a great deal of budgetary experience. We've got a lot ahead of us in the near future here. But seeing that there is one name that has gotten more votes than any other, that's probably the end of my discussion points.
Commissioner Isaac, Commissioner Duggan, any final thoughts?
I will echo Commissioner Sanders on this. I have as the least tenured board member, I will say that I have a lot of respect and deference for Commissioner Duggan and the many planning cycles, budget cycles, capital decisions, rate increases that you have been through. There does feel like a unique opportunity in this particular circumstance to position the board for the future that is less reflective of our past. So if you could be compelled to vote for Brian, I do think that there is a lot of value that we would realize very soon for that selection.
Well, seeing that there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion at this moment. And the commissioners, I mean, I know many times in our history we've all been of the same mind, and I know it's clear that we're not at this moment, and I think that's perfectly healthy for our board to be at. So I would encourage you to vote the way you feel most comfortable. But if we are going to make an appointment, we do need a motion.
Yeah, so Commissioner Fisher, thank you for those words. Just that I know that consensus is, it feels much better, right? But I would like, I move to appoint Brian Kennedy to fill the vacancy for Commissioner position number 5 with a term effective immediately upon swearing in and continuing through June 30th, 2027, and direct staff to prepare the necessary appointment documents.
And this is Todd Sanders, and I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, or we will move straight to a vote? So all those in favor of appointing Brian Kennedy, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Guess I'll say nay for one.
Wow. I'm still riding the fence on this. Yeah. Anthony Mills's background was good. Man, and you know, I wish that Brian Kennedy's interview was more persuasive to me, that he was really interested in being a commissioner. Or I would vote yay. Right now, I feel like I want to abstain because I have to think, I really have to think about this. This is really difficult. And I feel like I'm riding 3 different horses standing on a platform and waiting for the one horse to get ahead of the others. So it could be real clear to me who I should choose. And I don't like being over this barrel. Okay, now I've mixed a whole bunch of metaphors, and I'm trying to figure out how to get out of this trap here.
And you made me think of Mel Brooks. Right?
Well,
and somehow someone riding 3 horses was like, that's Mel Brooks.
I don't want this to be misconstrued as a trap. That was not at all what I
No,
was
I know,
intending.
I know.
I just wanted to ensure that we could have an opportunity to vote on that candidate, given my feelings about him as well as Commissioner Sanders' feelings about him. If the best advice that I can give is you have to follow your gut.
And right now, my guts feel like they're, I feel like I have intestines falling on the floor.
Commissioner Duggan
Yes.
or President Fisher, can I jump in here real quick?
Thank you, Sam. And
Yeah, so
advice?
I have the, so I'm just gonna kind of go off of the board policy that we have here. And so under section 3 voting, I'm just gonna read off of subsection B, which states all commissioners are expected to vote on each motion unless a commissioner is disqualified for a specific reason. Commissioners will declare a potential conflict of interest and may abstain from voting. Commissioners will declare an actual conflict of interest and will abstain from voting. A commissioner who does not vote must state the basis for any conflict of interest or other disqualification. So that speaks to an abstention from voting, just for your reference, if you
Thank
choose to
you.
do so.
Yeah, well, I guess I don't have any grounds to stand on to abstain, so I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to say nay for now and leave it as a tie vote.
Okay. So that vote fails to pass. So we are back open to general discussion, or if there's another.
You're muted, Commissioner Sanders.
Thank you. I move that we select Anthony Mills for the position of position number 5.
Is there a second?
Does not sound like it. Okay.
Seeing no second, we are back into open discussion.
This is Commissioner Lysak. I move that we appoint Dan Cushing to fill the vacancy for position number 5.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
This is Commissioner Duggan. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to appoint Dan Cushing to position 5. I will call a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed?
Nay.
The vote is 3-1. The motion carries. So Sam, I think we have done our duty now. Thank you, commissioners, for engaging in this it's always a very interesting personnel process when you are going through adding an appointment to your board. There are many other boards out there that struggle with these very same issues, and I would like to thank you all for your work from the subcommittee on down to this point.
President Fisher, can I follow up?
Yes.
Okay, so I will reach out to Dan Cushing and let him know that how you voted to appoint him. I believe he's on vacation right now, so I will coordinate with him and get him an oath, which he will sign and I will notarize. And at that point, he will be a member of the board. And so I will keep you all updated as to when that is and when I'm able to touch base with him and get a signature.
The other thing that I would add is that this appointment is till is it the end of this year? Till 2027? Till May of 2027? Sam, is
June
that
30.
correct?
June 30,
It's
2027.
June
June.
30th, 2020.
So there will be an election, and I would encourage any of the applicants who did not make it to please consider running for office, because again, public service is a calling, and just because you don't get an appointment doesn't mean your voice isn't important in the discussion.
I think, President Fisher, if I can just add one thing. In addition to Sam reaching out to get the oath administered, we will reach out to conduct the orientation that we typically do with a new commissioner, and hope to get that done as soon as possible so that he'll be fully prepared for the September 1st work session. So that'll be our goal, but we'll work obviously with Mr. Cushing to get that done in as timely manner as possible.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Sam. I think at this moment, we will be moving into executive session. So I will now close the regular session, and the board will convene an executive session. Will the district recorder please record the executive session script?
Yes, so an executive session of the board is called under ORS 192.6602H to consult with counsel concerning the legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed. So we will end this meeting, and then you have a virtual invitation to the executive session, and we will join again in that meeting.
If anyone needs to use the restroom or anything, please feel free to do so on your way to the meeting.